I cannot begin to tell you how old this is getting. Hi, everybody. Yeah. Oh, just switched back to the wrong screen there. Shut down this useless OBS. Hope I didn't mess something up by shutting that down. All right. Well, here we are. God, Megan said when I called and said, "Hey, I think I want to do an AMA tonight." She said, "What do you want to do on OBS?" I said, "Yeah, let's do it on OBS." She said, "It hasn't worked the last 2 times that we've done it." No, I'm sure it'll work this time. So, there you go. How are you all doing? I will bring back my cheat to center or something. Oh, that's so frustrating. Had a whole intro set up, little countdown screen. I picked some music. Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, I'm Dr. Josh, Digital Hammurabi. And I don't know, we haven't done anything in a little while. I've been doing a lot of stuff on Skylar's channel, which is amazing. And Skylar's fantastic. But sometimes I feel like I'm neglecting this channel. So I thought I owed you guys something. So I figured we'd do a little AMA tonight. And I really appreciate y'all being here. And okay, a couple of little house cleaning things, I guess. I wanted to let you guys know that I finished the script this morning for the formation of the Pentateuch. Well, that didn't work out well. The formation of the Pentateuch video that I'm putting together. So the script is done. So that's like 3/4 of the battle. I've sent it off to Dr. Reed to have him look over it. And I have a large section, I have an entire paragraph in there talking about how I'm not a Pentateuchal scholar. And so I want to make sure that I get some peer review before I put it out in front of you guys. It's all very, basic stuff. I don't think there's going to be a lot to worry about. But basically, the video is going to talk about the Pentateuch. Was it written by Moses, single authorship, or is it the work of numerous authors? And intellectual iconoclasm. Just tuned in. Have I apologized yet? Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize, and I'm sorry. Did you guys all see the video? Hope that you all saw the video. If you haven't, I think I can get it and put it in the description. I think I can. It's on Skylar's channel. How does one do that? Skylar Fiction. If you haven't subscribed, by the way, guys, to Skylar's channel, you're missing out. He puts out amazing content. Huh? What did I do? What happened? What'd you say? Oh, you're getting the link. Oh, okay. Why? Sorry, I thought I'd clicked something and broken it, so I got a little scared there. Yes. What was I saying? Oh, there, she said it there. I'm on it. Sorry. So God, I don't have any idea what I was saying. I'm so tired. Oh yes. So the Pentateuch video. No, that's not what I was saying. Ah, yes, the video that Skylar made. So I've had some interesting dealings on YouTube recently. I won't say anybody's name because I feel like that would be giving it too much exposure. But there are a couple of people that have been sort of ragging on me pretty hard, which is fine. I think it's kind of comical, honestly. But I decided to do a little, just sort of spur of the moment. I did this little voiceover debate thing uh, where I had one of these two people debating Ken Hovind, and then I put myself in the mix. But I sent the audio file over to Skylar, and Skylar turned it into this masterpiece. It's beautiful. Anyway, it links there in the description. You can take a look. Oh, hey, JMD Apologetics on here. Hey, Josh, would you possibly be interested in speaking to one of my Hebrew professors from my college? Yeah, sure. Yeah, just let me know what you want to talk about, or if it's just a chat. So I guess what I'm going to do tonight is I thought, what could we talk about? And one of the things that's come up recently is what I consider to be, I don't think it's malicious, but it's poor scholarship. And I don't think so. Let me kind of paint the picture a little bit here. We're going to go back to when I joined the Air Force. So I was 17 when I joined. And OMSI, is this AMA about scholarships or just anything? Oh, no, it's about anything. We're going to talk about poor scholarship, what it looks like, how I do my scholarship, which I'm not trying to say that I am like such an amazing scholar or something. I'm definitely not. Hey, Jim Majors is here. The best ever. What was I gonna say? God damn. Sorry guys. I just can't keep it together. Oh yeah, so back all right, so I was 17 when I joined the Air Force, and I started to study the Bible. And when I say I started to study the Bible, what I mean is I was introduced to something called mid-acts dispensationalism. And we don't have to get into what exactly that is, but essentially it's a hermeneutical approach, an interpretive approach to the biblical text. And there were a couple of authors that wrote fairly prolifically on the topic. And what I did is I just went crazy. I dove into it, and I read every book that these guys wrote. I mean, I don't know. I had a whole shelf, probably 100 different books by mid-acts dispensationalists. So C.R. Stam, Paul Sadler. I mean, those are the two big ones. But and then there were sort of some branch off authors. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is that these guys were not necessarily the most highly trained people, particularly in the biblical languages, but they had a model, an interpretive model that was coherent. It was coherent as far as the texts were concerned, at least at a cursory glance. Okay, so basically what I mean is, if you understood what they wrote, you could look at any part of the Bible and it would fit in to what their interpretive framework was. And the reason that worked is, hey Theomaki, but the reason that it worked is because there was a filter that you viewed everything through. Okay. And what happens in that sort of scenario is you read, if you read narrowly like that, you read one or two or three authors or a school of authors, and you read deeply into that, into their writings, into their systems, everything starts to connect, right? Everything starts to, it's a type of confirmation bias, right? And so I knew the Bible at that point. Like, I knew it. Like, you could go anywhere in the biblical text and I could engage with you about it. But the problem was that the level that I engaged with it, with the biblical text, was somewhat, I don't want to say it was a narrow level, but it was within a very strategic or purposeful, intentional framework. And it didn't really allow for outside opinion. It was very combative, right? It combated anything that was in opposition to it. Okay, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. I feel like I'm a little tired and I'm kind of rambling here a bit, but in my head, it's going somewhere. Okay, it wasn't until I learned Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic and these other languages and learned to approach the text at a textual level that I began to see that this framework that I was using, this hermeneutical approach that I had, it wouldn't stand up to the text, right? It wouldn't stand up under scrutiny. Okay, what does that have to do with what's been going on recently? One of the things that happens when you have a particular framework or you have a particular set of teachings, set of authors, school of thought that you adhere to, and you don't know the biblical languages, or worse, you think you know enough of the biblical languages to really engage with them, what happens is that confirmation bias becomes worse, I think, or it becomes a stronger confirmation bias. What do I mean by that? Well, I didn't know Greek and I didn't know Hebrew, but I knew the specific arguments about specific words or specific phrases that this mid-Acts dispensationalist group used, right? And I could go to my interlinear translation. I could go to my Strong's Concordance. Of course, we didn't have apps on your phone back then. But I could go and engage at that level and confirm what I already knew to be true. And the problem is that when you approach the text that way, even at an unconscious level, where you're trying to confirm what it is that you already know, you can find a lot of stuff in the text. Okay. So I made a video, and it's going to go up, I think, on Skylar's channel. I wrote the script, and then I recorded the video, and he's editing the video now to make it look good. But it's going to go up on his channel. Basically, what I'm doing is I've made a response to the final video that came out. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure if you look around a little bit. I just don't want to dignify this too much by talking about the people. But I made a response, and I think it's a very kind response. I consider it to be a genuine response. I know that we had fun with that video that we made, but I made fun of myself in that video, I think, just as much as everybody else. So I guess, so one of the things that I do in this video is I'm addressing some of the more, what I consider to be some of the more common methodological problems that I see. So I'll talk about that in just a minute, but let me look into the side chat here because I do see myself tagged a little bit here and see if there are any questions. So let's just see who's in the room. Okay. So, yep. Answered that. Hey, John Smith. Let's see. Oh, Daniel Ray's here. Hey, Daniel, how are you? Okay, so one can have confirmation bias with a wide-ranging knowledge of Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. Hermeneutics are like cats. They're independent and demanding. This is true. I mean, there's no question. So let me, Vegan Atheist, Coral, how goes the HAP search? Really well. We have, actually, Megan could probably speak to it. I don't know if she's still in the side chat. She's got a lot of stuff going on out there. Godzilla judge. In the Bible, God says he is the only savior and judge. Thank you. Here's what I see. It's one thing to know, and it's one thing to know these texts and to use them at a peer-reviewed level, right? That requires a certain something. It requires, I don't know, when you have people, even if they are, let me be careful how I say this. When you have wide-ranging, maybe broad peer review, when you have people that you're not selecting the peers that are going to review your stuff necessarily, and you engage with the Greek and the Hebrew, you have to do so at a higher level. Otherwise, you get lambasted, right? You get torn apart. That's just the nature of the beast. It's one of the reasons that I think scholarship is so effective, because you can't really. It becomes clear if you do it poorly, I think. But if you don't know the languages, you end up, generally speaking, not engaging at a peer-reviewed level. And part of the reason that happens is because people at the peer-reviewed level, for better or for worse, whatever, don't take you seriously enough, right? Because, well, God, I'm not going to spend my time reading this person's 400-page book if I know they don't know Hebrew and they're writing on Old Testament, on an Old Testament topic at a linguistic level. I'm just not going to engage with it because it's not worth my time, right? That's sort of the thought. Same thing goes for the New Testament, whatever. So you're absolutely right, Daniel. You can know these languages and still have confirmation bias. There's no question. It's harder to get away with it. I think the more skilled you become, or the more experience that you have, and the more broadly that you have your work reviewed by your peers. Okay. Let me give you an example of something that came up that I thought was, alias fake name says, James told me he liked the parody video last night on MDD. Yeah, he sent an email to us saying that we sent him an email saying, hey, I hope this is okay with you. I don't think my James voice is as good, but I had a lot of fun with that. Almsy, I think you should have Amaro Biglino on for an interview. I don't know who that is. Hugh Ross's theory of Genesis doesn't work in Hebrew. Yeah, I agree. Oh, a super chat. Lawrence Carrington. Whose voice should I do this in? I know I do it in God, I need some sleep. That's all there is to this. Well, who do you guys want? I guess I could do Ken Hovind. I could do okay. Lawrence wants to. He paid for the super chat, so I'm going to do it in his Lawrence Carrington for $15. Thank you, Lawrence. That's very kind. Okay. Have there been any new discoveries or insights that have brought new light or refined context to currently disputed ancient texts? Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that the discoveries have allowed this to evolve. Yeah, I mean, that's a general question. There's always new stuff coming up, particularly in the field of Assyriology. You'll see that new tablets. Give you an example. I think 3 years ago, a new tablet of was it Etana? I think it was the Etana myth. Oh, man, I need sleep. I think it was the Etana myth. And what it did is but don't hold me to that. For some reason, I'm thinking that's not right. But a new tablet was discovered, and it sort of filled in a pretty significant gap, and it allowed us to really develop our understanding of that literary text. So yes, stuff like that happens all the time, depending on the field. Of course, in biblical studies, it's a little harder because unless you have like a Qumran, development, archaeologically, you can have a lot of stuff that comes up because they're continuously digging. But it's difficult to find new texts in biblical studies. But in Assyriology, yeah, I mean, it's not every time, but often when your spade goes in the ground. That's not true, but you do find a lot of tablets or tablet fragments. So yes, which is why we need Assyriologists. So if you're interested in ancient texts, let me turn you towards Sumerian and Akkadian because you can actually work with the originals. Now Nick J, what do you think of the scholarship work of Michael Heiser? Just curious. I see a lot of apologists refer to him. I've talked about him a little bit before, and again, I don't want to claim like special knowledge of Michael Heiser's work. I've read some of his stuff. He studied under Michael Fox, and he was a phenomenal scholar. And you know, the work that I see Heiser doing, a lot of it, I think is very, very good. He's got extensive qualifications as a Semiticist. I think he works in Second Temple Judaism. I hear him talk a lot about the Divine Council. But I guess I'd have to think specifically about the particular paper or topic. But I mean, like, he's a very qualified scholar, no question, no question. He seems like a nice guy too. I have seen some things that I personally disagree on, but I mean, that you can't read another scholar without seeing that stuff. So, Almsey, he is an ex-Vatican translator, ancient Hebrew, etc. All the same stuff you do. Okay, cool. Intellectual iconoclasm. Digital Hammurabi. How difficult is it to sift out which dynasty's linguistic influence? Sift out which dynasty's linguistic influence, especially actual meaning is especially when going from one language culture to the next. Sorry, I'm trying to understand the question. So sorry. You're talking about in Mesopotamia, it can be difficult moving from like Sumerian to Akkadian and then going through the different periods. If that's what you're talking about, yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be difficult to try to figure out what lexemes mean at different periods. Now, that being said, there are a couple of things. Let's take Akkadian, for example. Akkadian has many different periods of linguistic development. So, you know, Old Akkadian, Old Babylonian, Neo-Assyrian, Neo-Babylonian. I mean, you have Middle Assyrian, Middle Babylonian. You have lots of different periods, and they can all have nuanced meanings. There does seem to be overall consistency throughout the different periods. But again, you have to, it's all about context. And that's something I want to talk about here in just a second. Because context really is king. And I want you guys to remember that when I get a lot of questions like, what does this word mean? What does this lexeme mean? What does this verse mean in this passage? And those are fantastic questions. And I'm glad that they're being asked because let's take the word eved. I've talked an awful lot about slavery over the past couple of months. And, you know, I've talked about it on Skylar's channel, talked about it here. So, you know, slavery is a big deal because I think it speaks to the issue of morality. I think it speaks to the issue of the distinctiveness or the lack thereof of how Israel is presented, Israel's law is presented in the biblical text. I think that might have been Alexa. Sorry. Okay. So, God, I don't remember what I was saying. I need to have somebody that can like chime in and say what you were talking about was context. Okay. So slavery. Yes. In this, I was going to talk about Eved. I'm really sorry, guys. When I get tired, that mess gets worse. So the word Eved, you know, it means slave, servant, bondservant. It can mean an awful lot of things. But do we have any, God, we don't have any mods in here. So it can mean an awful lot of different things, but it all depends on the context, right? So that's a pretty simple example. If you see Eved, for example, in a context where it says you can keep this Eved for life, you can pass him down to your children, like in Leviticus 25, 44 to 46, you could say yes. Oh, Lieutenant Galloway's here. Cool. Thanks, sir. Um, you can see that the context is demanding that this sort of fluid word eved, which can mean a range of different. It can have a range of different nuances. It can mean it means chattel slave here in this context. Chattel in the sense of this is property, right, owned by the master. I always give the example of run in English, and this will provide a good background, I think, to what I'm going to say. The word run in English is very versatile. If I use the word or if I use it in the phrase, I'm going to go for a run this morning around the block. That has a specific nuanced meaning, right? It has a range, sure, but it's fairly specific what I mean. You can narrow that down. For example, I could be sprinting around the block. That's true. I could be running at maybe 75% of my full speed. I could be jogging, but it's going to be in that range of I'm actually going to put like sneakers on and I'm going to go do this around the block, right? Okay. So, if I say my nose is running, that it has a different meaning. It's the same word run, but now we're thinking that something not so pleasant is coming out of my nose because I have a cold or something. If I say the refrigerator is running, it doesn't mean either of those two things, right? There's a motor inside of it, and it is kicked on because it's trying to cool down the inside of the fridge. Okay, the word run there has different meanings. Now, how do you derive the meaning? Is it from the form of the word? Because running, running, running all looks the same in all three of those contexts. All three of those sentences, running looks the same, spelled the same, pronounced the same, everything the same, right? What's the difference? The context. The context tells you what that means. Everybody knows that in English, right? You can pick it up instantly. The problem is, wow, 𝀭Support 100. I don't know what that denomination is, but it's a really big number. 10,000 HUF. Help me out. What is that? Thank you. That's amazing. Let me read it in the Kent Hovind voice. Is that what you'd like up here? Is the Kent Hovind voice, or do you want me to do the other voice that I did in that video? I'll wait a second, so we get a good. But the context tells you what that word means, and we get that, and we even get it in very subtle context. For example, we can get different uses of the word run. Oh, Hungarian. Okay. Awesome. Oh, wow. $35. Thank you very much. That is incredibly generous of you. Wow. Wow. Thank you. All right. Well, I will do it in Ken Hovind's voice, and if you want me to do it a different way, you can let me know after. Oh yeah. So 𝀭Support 100. Is Hungarian for 10,000, which is a huge number. Of course, it's 4,000 years, 4,000 more than the Earth is old. Of course, we know that's true. Okay, I'm here to help. Digital Hammurabi, love your channel. Obviously not as much as evolution or otters, but thank you. You guys are fantastic. Thank you very much. What that word run, we could have it different ways in the same sentence, right? I mean, we could say something like, I'm going to run to the store because my nose is running. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to run to the store. I'm running to the store because my nose is running, right? Two exact same word, exact same pronunciation. It's spelled the same, everything, but the context is determining, even in the same sentence, the difference between those two. Okay. The problem is that we start to, sometimes I see people losing that when they go into the biblical text in particular. So if you guys know what an interlinear translation is, you know what? I can do that, can I? I can pull up an interlinear translation. Watch me now. If you don't know what that is, I will just pull it up now. How do I do that? Like this. Okay. Google Hebrew interlinear. Let's see if I can. Genesis 1. Okay, very good. Now, how do I get back to screen share? Sorry, everybody. I'm just trying to learn how to do this. Screen share. Start screen share. Is that working? Can you guys all see that? Of course, I can't see your responses now because I'm not on it. Okay. Okay, you can. And you can see my mouse. So let me do this. All right, so the way that this is set up, it looks very strange to me because they're writing this. This is the Hebrew up here in this line, and then this is called a transliteration. It's a very strange transliteration, but nonetheless. And then you have the English somewhat woodenly underneath of it here. Now, it's all being written right to left. As a matter, in reality, this word starts here and ends here, but it should be back here at the beginning. So it should be going this way. So you would read Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So Bereshit this is actually kind of complicated, but nonetheless, in the beginning, Reshit is the beginning of something. Bara is from Beit Resh Aleph, which means he created. It means to create something, so he created. Elohim is a word that you've probably heard before. It means God or gods. Can mean other things in different contexts. Okay. But you see that what they're doing is underneath, they're putting the English translation. This is called an interlinear text. Now you can see how this could give you maybe a bit of a false sense of security or a false confidence that you can know what the Hebrew is saying, right? Because, but this can be problematic. Let me go back and see if I can get to Exodus 21. Okay, this is a passage, and I'll talk about this a little more in the video, but I just want to give you a bit of a taste of what's coming. Man, this looks so weird. Okay. See, even here, well, anyway, I won't get into this. So, v'chiyakeh ish et avdo et amto. Beshevet. Right. Okay. So it's so weird to read it this way. So here, yeah. Okay. A couple things to point out. I'll just come down here. You see this? It might be tough to see. Yeah. This. Oh, that's weird. There we go. I can do it like that. Maybe. I don't know why it's not highlighted in the second part. Okay. Do you see that these two words have the same three root letters? You don't have to even know what they are, but look, nun, nun, kof, kof, mem, mem. So, nakom, yenakem. Nakom, yenakem. All right. So, in a debate that I was having, the individual said, this you can read down here, to be avenged, he shall be avenged. Now, if you just look at this, it looks for all the world like you have two verbs here, like two regular verbs here, and you can then say, well, gosh, we don't have a construction in English where we have two verbs. So it must be that for every verb, you have to have a subject or an object, if it's a transitive verb. And of course, this is, right? To avenge something or to be avenged. Okay, so the conclusion that this individual had was, there are two verbs here. So one has to go with the man up here, the ish, and then the other one has to go with the servant. So the man, something has to do with avenging with the man, and then some kind of avenge or judgment has to do with the servant that's being beaten here. Okay. I'm going to stop screen sharing because I've kind of made my point here. Okay. Let me get back so I can see the side chat. There it is. Okay. Right. Okay, so if I were to say to you, so that makes logical sense, right? You can see the logic behind that. You can see how that makes some sense. Okay, you have two verbs, and you can see it there: to be avenged or to avenge, to be avenged, he will be avenged. You see it written there twice, and you're like, oh well, gosh. I mean, that seems logical to draw that conclusion. Okay, here's the problem. It's wrong. If I were to say to you, that guy is really good at playing the guitar, but that woman is really, really good at playing the guitar. What does really, really good mean in that sentence? Does it mean that in the first part of the sentence, when I said really, that meant the woman, but then in the second part, when I said really, really, that I was the first really referred back to the woman and the second really referred to the guy? No, right? That's silly. We understand English, and we know that when I say, man, that guy is really, really good, that I'm emphasizing, right? I'm emphasizing how good that individual is by saying really twice. Very simple, right? Hebrew has a similar construction, at least conceptually, it's similar. If you say Isaiah 6, right? You say Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. It's an emphatic repetition. You're emphasizing the holiness of Yahweh there. The same thing is true. That's right, Jonah Epstein. First really is an intensifier for the second. You got it. Well, they have something similar with verbal forms. So there's something called an infinitive absolute, and I talk about this in the video, so I won't go into a lot of detail here, but TV tube me, the easy way of saying it. Here's the problem. It's wrong. It's true. Sorry. I didn't mean to be so blunt, but Hebrew has this thing where what they'll say is, I see the Isaiah 53 question. I'll answer it. That's good. I'll answer that in just a second. Hey, guys, sorry. If you do have questions, please tag me. Oh, I missed the super chat. I'm going to get that in just a second. Sorry. Insects are cool. In Hebrew, what they can say is, and this happens with mot tamut or mot yumat. He will surely die, or you will surely die, or he will surely be put to death. You see that word surely comes up. It comes up actually like 8 or 9 times in Exodus 21, that infinitive absolute form. And what it is that repetition of the verbal form, it's slightly different. It's not an exact repetition, but it's the same root, same verbal root. They repeat it for essentially the same reason. It's emphatic, right? It can be more nuanced than that, and the context depends, determines how nuanced it is or what the particular nuance is. But essentially, what it's saying is, people have called it fact, like a you will in fact die, you will certainly die, you will surely die, you will definitely die. They're trying to bring over that meaning of the repeated verb. So it doesn't mean that the point here is that it's not a repeated verb to have like 2 different subjects or 2 different objects or whatever that it's talking about. It's repeating it because it's emphatic. So in that Exodus 21, verse 20, it says, if a man strikes his female servant, or his female slave. I mean, God, his male servant or his female servant, that they die under his hand, he will in fact be punished. He will definitely be punished. He will surely be punished. So that sort of thing, you would think. Let me pause for a second and read this. Insects are cool for $1. He didn't have anything to say in particular, but I really appreciate it because, well, of course, that we know that insects can't evolve, and insects don't give birth to dogs. We never see insects giving birth to non-insects. So, thank you very much. Okay. So let me just look really quickly here because I forgot what I was talking about. No surprise to anybody watching. Daniel Ray, Hebrew is not nearly as clear as Greek. Greek can tend to be more, in some ways, it can be more descriptive. I don't know that I would say it's not as clear. I guess it depends on what you mean by that specifically, but when I use the interlinear against Hugh Ross's theory, day yom always means 24-hour day, not a long period of time, like Ross says. Yeah, I mean, so yom, here's another, this is another word that has some versatility. This is another problem. Let's talk about another problem. Okay, remember how I said that nose running, car running, person running, all have the same form, but they have different nuanced meanings. What determines the meaning? Say it with me now. Context, right? It's how languages work. Okay. So yom does have versatility. There's no question about it, right? You can see like there are a couple of passages where it's just, I think it's pretty clear that yom can have a more generalized meaning. It doesn't have to mean a 24-hour day. But that doesn't mean that you can go wherever you want and read an indefinite period of time into the text. What determines what yom means? The context. Okay. This is where biblical exegesis, in ancient texts, this is where it happens, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. You have to look at the context. And in order to do that effectively, you have to know what all the lexemes mean. You have to know what all the syntactical structures mean. You have to know the language, for goodness sake. But even then, that doesn't mean you're going to get the right answer. It just means it gets you into a place where you can at least get closer to the right answer. And so with something like yom, you want to look at stuff like, okay, you have boker, erev, you have, like morning, evening. You have these other kinds of words. Excuse me. What fits that context best? And of course, it's never always extraordinarily straightforward, right? But you have other passages that you can kind of talk about. But this is where evidence comes in. But what you can't do is say, well, look, I found a place over here where yom means not a 24-hour period. That means I can read not a 24-hour period into every one of these uses back here in Genesis 1. False. Black bear. You can't do that, right? So these are sort of exegetical fallacies that take place, and I've seen this a lot recently. So, for example, there was several Hebrew words that were used. I'm trying to think of something specific that isn't something I addressed in the video. I don't want to give all the nakam here. Daniel's given me a great example. Thank you. And then insects are cool. I promise I'll answer your question at least a little bit about Isaiah 53. And actually, while I'm answering this, insects are cool. If you want to be a little more specific about what you mean, what do I think of Isaiah 53? That'd be awesome. So Daniel Ray writes, Nakam is God's vengeance. Isn't that correct, Dr. B? It can be. But Nakam has fluidity, right? And this is one of the interesting aspects of Exodus 21 is, what does Nakam mean there, right? So how would you go about finding out? This is sort of good scholarship methodologies 101, right? Doing basic lexicography. How would you go about finding out what that means? Well, one of the things that you want to do first is find all the occurrence. Well, the first thing you want to do, I would say, is look in a good lexicon, right? And I'll give you a couple here. There are two primary usable Hebrew lexicons. There's Brown, Driver, and Briggs, which is also called BDB. It's a little dated, but it's still solid research by the authors Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And then you have the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, which is a little bit bigger. It was originally 5 volumes. I think it's down to 2 now, but 2 thick ones. But that's Kohler and Baumgartner. But those two, that's a really great place to start. What about, you might ask, something like Strong's Concordance? Okay. Strong's Concordance, I think, is a, you know what? I'm going to screen share again because I think that's actually really important to talk about. Strong's Concordance. Oh boy. Oh, the last time I used Strong's Concordance, it was an actual Strong's Concordance. Oh man. This is far too complicated. See, I don't know how to use these online tools here. I just okay, here we go. This is good. Wow, this is not easy. Sorry, everybody. I feel like I'm just staring at the screen here. I'm trying to find just a basic word that would make some sense. Okay. Doc. That's not a good example. God. All right. I'm really bad at this, guys. I don't know how to do this stuff online. I'm really sorry. Okay, let me just describe it because I'm failing miserably here, and I'll take 5 minutes before I figure out how to do this. So if you use a Strong's Concordance, what it's going to do is it's sort of like a yeah, I was on Bible Hub, Daniel. I can't figure out how to work that thing. Let me show you what I use. I'll just hold it up here real quick. I have what I consider to be sort of a Cadillac. I've been using this since my days in seminary. I can get my computer to turn on. I have something called BibleWorks. So BibleWorks, you can see the Hebrew down there at the bottom, then the Septuagint in the middle, and then whatever English translation I want to put in there. But that's what I use if I'm being a little lazy and not just working from my VHS. But or when I'm on a stream, because it's a little easier to just use this. Right. So if you use a Strong's Concordance, what you're going to see is the Hebrew word. I think they write it in the actual Hebrew characters, but then they write a transliteration, and then they have listed out all of the possible meanings of that, let's say, that verb. So nakah is a good example. Nakah can mean to hit, to strike, to smite, to scourge. This is all the different ways that it's translated. It's translated this way in the text, or in the Bible. That's how the translators in different places, that's how they translate it into English. Okay. So what people often do, unfortunately, you know what? Daniel has put some links in here. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Open link in new tab. Yeah. Does this work? Does it give me... Man, how is this thing set up? Okay, yeah, this could work. This could work. How do I screen share? Sorry, I'm still not terribly good at this. Let's try it. All right. So here, can you guys see that? Okay, so Strong's Concordance, number 5358. They give you the English characters nakam. This is that word we were looking at. Thank you, Daniel, for this. So they're saying nakam, to avenge or to take vengeance, right? Well, right off the bat, you will hear people say, well, look, it says avenge or take vengeance. That's what it means. Well, okay. Sometimes, not always. Remember, this is an interpretive tool, right? This is something that somebody put together. It's not like this was handed down by a divine being, right? This is someone's interpretation. Brown, Driver, and Briggs, interpretation, right? It's an interpretive tool. Hollowed, same thing. Any of these materials, you know, they're good. They're scholarly works, and I think you need to use them and take them seriously. But they're still just people's interpretations of the text. You can't just take them and go, well, that's what it means. End of the story. Okay. So here's your verb nakam in the Hebrew. They're saying it's a verb. Here's the transliteration. This is how they're pronouncing it, which is interesting. Okay. Definition: to avenge or to take vengeance. Now, here are all the different ways that the New American Standard Bible translates it. Avenge, avenged, avenger, avenging. To exact something, to execute, punished. All right, all these different ways that it's translated. Okay. Now, oftentimes what I see people doing is sort of doing this like a la carte. They go, what do I want it to mean? So they go down here and they say, well, I want it to mean punished. Avenged, I don't really like that. Aha, punished. Well, it can mean that, and I want it to mean that here, so that's what it means. See, and now I have evidence because it can mean punished. Bad move, everybody. You don't want to do that. Let's come down here. Here is Brown, Driver, and Briggs, and this is really useful. It's a little harder to read in this format, but what it's doing here is it's giving you the entry, the Brown, Driver, and Briggs entry for a nakam here. So how do I want to present this to you? I'll talk about this a little bit in the video, but there are different, this is a verb, and there are different ways that verbs can be formed. There's cal, there's the nifal, there's the pl, the hofal, the hitpael, and so on. There are a bunch of different ones. Cal is simple. It's like your basic stem. Nifal is generally a passive. PL is, it can be a bunch of different stuff, but it's, let's say it's intensive. If shavar in the cal means to break, shiber in the PL means to smash or to shatter. Hitpael is reflexive, and so on. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they all have they're going to have slightly different meanings. So here, the simple, to avenge, to take vengeance. In the passive, he's saying to avenge oneself, to suffer vengeance. That's in the nifal. In the PL, to avenge. Again, this one is, consistent enough. But the point is, what I see people doing is going to something like this. Something like this. And figuring out which one they want it to be. And what that means is, if you can find a passage that will have this, right? You can find passages that there is going to be a passage that translates nakam, punished. And so they'll go to that passage and say, see, here it is. And, Jeremiah 14, here it's used and it says punished. So that's what it means back here in Genesis 1. Well, no, that's not how it works. The reason that you have all those different meanings, and I don't know how clear any of this is, but the reason that you have that, oh, did I turn something off? Is it still working? Okay, sorry. I just saw it go to some weird thing on my screen. The reason that all those different translations are there, all those different English translations are there, is because they're used that way, right? They're translated that way. Am I still screen sharing, or am I back? I can't tell. Did I pause the? Sorry. Oh, there I am. Okay. Sorry, I've got the other. Doesn't matter. I'm here. God, I feel like I'm just rambling on, guys. I'm really sorry. To all 49 of you watching, I feel like this is worthless. Okay, so what I see happening is somebody says, all right, I've got this word nakam here in and it's in the PL, or it's in the nifal, or whatever here in this verse, and how do I figure out what it means? Well, what you don't do is go find the meaning that you want in some other passage, right? There's a way to go about doing this. First of all, I think for somebody that, particularly for somebody that may not be actually trained in the languages, go to BDB, go to Hollow, go to some commentaries, look at what different translations say. There's a reason they translate it this way, right? There's a reason they do that. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're, just because the NASB translates it that way, or, whatever, that necessarily means that they're right. But you have to take that seriously because there's a reason they're doing it. Katie Dotson says, you're doing great. Keep rambling. Apparently I'm tired enough that it makes sense. Thank you. That's very encouraging, actually. One of the things that I really get frustrated by is people sort of poo-pooing scholarship. I hate that. And the reason that I hate it is because it's taking an extreme that you really should not take. In the same way that I should not say, you don't know Greek and Hebrew, I don't need to listen to anything you say. That would be silly, right? I mean, that would just that would be silly. I need to think that through when you tell me something, but that doesn't mean I just dismiss what you say because you don't know Greek and Hebrew. I don't have to listen to you, right? That would be an extreme that we don't want to go to. The other extreme is, well, just because you have Greek and Hebrew training doesn't necessarily mean you got the right answer, and because you don't necessarily have the right answer, I don't have to listen to anything you say. That's also ridiculously stupid for any number of reasons. First of all, I mean, if you go to BDB, one of these, or Blue Letter Bible, or any of these things, I mean, these are scholars that are, hopefully, I mean, I don't know who put Blue Letter Bible together, but BDB those are good scholars. So you're listening to them if you're using it. So anyway, that's an important thing to, I think, to point out. Okay. Insects are cool. I said that I was going to answer your question. Now I'm going to, because I forgot about it until I just looked up and saw it, because I'm a horrible human being. I'm sorry. Okay. Just in general, I guess, what or who do you think it's talking about, and did Jesus fulfill it? Interesting question. Okay. And probably not a straightforward answer that you're looking for. I'm going to ask, it depends on what you mean. I'll answer with some options. You don't have to tell me. I think that Isaiah 53, if for anybody that doesn't know, I'm sure that you all do, but Isaiah 53 is a passage that talks about someone who is being beaten on account of transgressions and is doing so for the sake of a group of people. And of course, it's considered a messianic a messianic text. I started thinking about Psalm 22 while I started thinking of Isaiah 53, but it's considered a messianic passage, and of course it's cited as being fulfilled by Jesus as a messianic figure. Okay, what do I think of it? It's messianic. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that there's any real question about that. Now that probably doesn't mean, I probably don't mean what you think I mean. Well, some of you. There are lots of messianic passages, and there are lots of messianic figures that came. And what I suspect, and this is, look, the Isaiah 53 debate is very complicated. If you want some good analysis of it, Blenkinsopp has a really nice commentary. It's a little meaty, but Blenkinsopp's commentary in the Yale Bible commentary series is, or the word, it's from Yale Word Bible Commentary. Yale. Whew. I need like 2 hours of sleep. That's what I need. Anyway, Blenkinsopp's, it's blue. His commentary series from Yale. Excellent section on there describing or talking about the different options, what people have thought. It's definitely not settled. I think what scholars would agree on, I suspect, is that it is a messianic passage, but the Messiah that it's describing, I think, is a contemporary. It's probably, if I had to guess, or if I had to come to a conclusion now, if you put a gun to my head and said, "Give me a conclusion now," I would say that it's probably the disciples, the followers of a particular very charismatic guy, who are writing about his death, and but it's somebody contemporaneous with the writing of Isaiah. So yeah, do I think that Jesus fulfilled it? I mean, if what you mean by that is somebody later wrote and said that Jesus fulfilled it, and we have textual evidence that argues that he fulfilled it from the early first millennium CE, yes, in that sense, he fulfilled it. But I mean, I don't think when I say that I mean what most people think that I mean when I say it. I have no idea if there was any coherence to what I just said. I'm sorry. Okay, I've been going about an hour, and I wasn't planning on going a whole lot longer, but I really just wanted to come on and do something because I felt like I owed you guys that. But let me look back and see if there are any other questions. Okay, Nick J. How old should a source be in order for it to be considered current rather than dated? That is a fantastic question, and it's a subjective sort of thing. It's often dependent upon the field. So Assyriology is relatively modern, right? A little over 100 years, a little bit more, at least most of the work. So when you have all this new data coming in and new information coming up and texts that haven't been translated and get translated, 10 years can mean a lot. So, if I pull up an article from the 90s in an Assyriological context, I'm going to be looking for something newer because I suspect somebody else has written on it. In biblical studies, it's a little bit different because you have such a history, such an extensive history, and we're not discovering a bunch of new texts that you have to engage with that are going to, radically change the way that we interpret the text. There's, a little more leeway in that. So, if I see something from the 70s, I'm still obviously in my mind, I'm considering 60s, we're getting a little dated. 70s is, it's sort of on that boundary, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, it's, but I'm always, the way that engaging with secondary literature works is you're always looking for the most up-to-date thing, because a good scholar, hopefully, if it's a good scholar, he's going to do in a monograph or in a dissertation or and even in an edited volume, if he's got a substantial chapter in there or something, or even a big article, a good article in a journal, going to have some sort of secondary literature review, right? What have people said about this in the past? And so you want to get the most up-to-date stuff, because good scholars are going to put that stuff in there. So hope that answered that. Okay. Jim Majors, did Matthew use a different source for his two donkeys pericope, or was he just an idiot that didn't correct the Septuagint? I don't know. I'm very reticent to. I feel weird saying that, because I have a master's in theology, where I spent 6 years translating New Testament Greek pretty extensively. But because I don't work in the New Testament now with any kind of regularity, I'm always reticent to comment before I go and read through the passage in Greek and read what the secondary literature says about it. So I'd probably be hesitant to comment. But if you email me, Jim, I can sort of put it on a list of things to do. MJT532, do you think parts of Isaiah 53 don't fit Jesus? Let me just glance back at it. This is very exciting, isn't it? Watching me read something to myself. I don't know. I don't see anything that jumps out at me that says this couldn't have been made to fit. Yeah, I have to think about that a little bit. I don't see anything that jumps off that says that, you know, again, I think that the New Testament authors knew this passage, right? And so they wrote it in such a way that it would fit. But that's a good question. Let me do a little reading and see. Yeah, I mean, so Vlad Tepes here is making a comment here. If you read Isaiah 52 and 54, it describes the nation of Israel and Jerusalem specifically as the he. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. Look, there's no question whatsoever that that the servant songs and the servant that appears there, I don't think there's it's not a homogenous. I don't think you can say that it's a homogenous individual, or like a homogenous referent. Definitely Israel is mentioned specifically as the servant, or other servant. Cyrus, I think, is chapter 42. I'm forgetting. It's been a while. But that being said, I do think that there probably is a distinction in Isaiah 53, and I think probably the New Testament authors picked up on that. Again, I don't think that a New Testament author looking back at a text that they know relatively well and making an account fit is all that outlandish. Sentinel Apologetics is here. How you doing, Rob? Sorry. Good grief. All right. Dan Edwards, what do you think about... Wow, that's Stravakopoulos published a few years ago, dissertation about Yahweh, Molech, and their relationship. I'd be interested to see that. Getting 5. This has been totally debunked. Oh man. Yeah, I haven't read it. It's interesting because we had I just keying off of Moloch there, Molech. Be interested to see what the book's about, or the dissertation. Because of course of oh God, I've forgotten my good friend's name. I'm gonna go after this, I promise, because I need to go to sleep. Dr. Durrell. Dr. Durrell, of course, wrote his dissertation and published it on child sacrifice in ancient Israel. But yeah, I'd like to see that. I'll take a look. All right, let me close up with this. And guys, while I'm closing up, if you have, yeah, thank you very much, sweetheart. She put it in there. If you have any last questions, please get them in. And I'll just kind of close up with this. One of the things that I think is absolutely imperative, is that we don't stop pushing forward, right? And I'm gonna key you guys in on something. Last week, I came to realize, I think, why it is that people in like lofty academic circles don't engage as much as they should, or as much as I would like, or as perhaps much as you would like, with people that are non-specialists. And the reason is, when you engage with people in your field, and if any of you are out there, are in an academic field, you know this. When you're engaging with people in your field that have like a similar level of formal education, there are certain things that you all assume, right? And you don't assume them for arbitrary reasons. You assume them because they've been established, right? So if you're working in a scientific field, evolution's been established, right? That's like an assumption that you make, and you can then move on past it. In the same way, I guess, that gravity is established, so you can, move on past it. So the same thing holds true in biblical studies or in Assyriological studies, right? It's assumed, for example, that Moses didn't write the Pentateuch. It's just sort of assumed. And not because scholars hate God, or not because they have some weird bias against it or something, but because this is where the evidence leads, right? And so when you do that, when you're not dealing constantly with these sort of assumed data, these assumed models, whatever, you can then move on to more advanced or more difficult or more challenging, more debated, whatever, areas of study, and move the field forward, because we're not going back over this well-laid foundation over and over again. Well, that sort of thing isn't true in like non-specialist circles, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, how in the world would non-specialists get to that level? I mean, it's the whole point of the formal education, is getting to that level. The problem that I see anyway, is that when you're in this ivory tower, the ivory tower of academia, and you don't deign to come down and engage with people at this, at a non-specialist level, at least with any regularity, the people at the non-specialist level can't, get access to you, right? And so what ends up happening is, you have to make a choice. This is what I'm seeing. You have to kind of make a choice. you're either going to continue to try to advance the field in like an elite way by staying up here at the top and engaging with your peers and fine tuning the arguments and moving the field forward in that way, or you're going to take on a more teaching aspect in your career and try to bring non-specialists into a place where they understand that core data, right? That foundational data. Problem is when you do that, you have to engage at that level with that core data that non-specialists don't agree on. So I can't just say, we know there are multiple authors to the Pentateuch, because boom, I'm going to see it as soon as I publish this video. I'm going to see a very strong reaction. And I know that. I'm well aware of it. And I knew I was going to see that when I put out the Ezekiel 26 and the Daniel videos. Like, I knew I was going to see it. I expected it, right? I would have been very surprised had I not seen it. And that's all part of this, right? Because if you haven't engaged with the field in like formal education, it's less likely, I guess, statistically speaking, that you're going to get that core information and really understand it. So much so that it becomes sort of common knowledge. I don't know, a basis for moving into more advanced studies. And so, like, I know very well that I'm probably not going to write a bunch of like groundbreaking new peer-reviewed work. Right? I'm probably not going to do that because it doesn't. Those two things are very difficult to do, I think. And this is sort of common, I think. But I think this is absolutely imperative, and it fits well with the way things are going in our lives, and I think it works well here. My goal here, and I know Megan's goal. Sorry, I keep moving the table, which is moving the camera, probably giving people some type of motion sickness. But my goal here is to try to establish this foundational stuff that like scholars in the field assume, right, have laid as a foundation and work from. I feel like it's part of my calling, whatever, I don't know, to engage so that everybody can have that foundational knowledge. And what that means is you have to, okay, I'm going to be very straight with you guys. The whole slavery issue in the Old Testament, there's consensus, right? It's not really all that debated. The stuff that's been debated recently, they're just not debated in the field. There are some things like, is Exodus 21 talking about a debt slave or a chattel slave or neither? Is it just a general passage? That sort of stuff's, debated. But, Leviticus 25, 44 to 46, you're just not going to find in Old Testament studies, in ancient Near Eastern law, legal context, there's not a lot of debate about that stuff. It's sort of in that assumed foundational area. But I expect to engage with it here, right? And that's okay. I think that's good. I think that's good because I think it makes everybody have to re-engage at that level, at that foundational level. And I think that the way that, and I am rambling now, I'm sorry, but I think the thing that Megan and I see as our role here is to be able to lay that foundation and help lay that foundation. But then those scholars that we're really good friends with, that are up here in the ivory tower sort of, and are engaging at this really high level, doing all this new research, all this new peer review stuff, we get to connect you to them. And we get to have them on, and they get to talk about their new research. So, I get to bring on Dr. Durrell, who publishes his book on child sacrifice. There's no way I'm going to know what he knows about child sacrifice, right? Because it takes so long to get into that. So, but I'm actually very excited about how this is, because I feel like it's a really good balance. So I can kind of take the heat, bear the brunt. That sounds weird. Of putting out a video about slavery and then having all these really strong reactions, or putting out a video about Ezekiel 26 and having all these strong reactions. I'm cool with engaging at that level. I think it's really good. But and having to engage with the Jesus is Lords. I see you there, buddy. I really like Joe. I really do. I think he's a lot of fun. As long as he's not being a jerk. Hopefully he's not in there being a jerk. But he wouldn't be a jerk. He's a nice guy. But don't prove me wrong, Joe. Be a nice guy. Oh gosh. Holy shit. Well, that's my wife. No, you're not being a jerk. You're being funny. I love my wife. She's incredible. All right. So I don't know where I was going with all that. I think I saw some questions, and then I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Let's see. Katie Dotson yawns back at Digital Hammurabi. I woke up with dog chewing on my arm at 4 a.m. Wow. I am really sorry. Ugh, that sounds awful. Insects are cool. Digital Hammurabi, do you have a stream schedule? Oh, Megan answered that, I think. Sentinel Apologetics. What about all the Second Temple pesher on Isaiah 53 about the Messiah figure, including later rabbinic pesher that affirms this? That affirms what, Rob? I mean, it very well may have been Hezekiah. I don't know, but affirms that it's a messianic passage. That's what I said, boss. And Rob shares my goal. I know he does. Good man. Let's see. Oh, he wrote it again. I see. So Corkman, have you guys talked about the test for an unfaithful wife from Numbers 5? I don't think that I have. I'll talk about it very briefly here if you like. Come on, Jill. You're going to get booted out of here, Boston. I don't want you to get booted out. You have no idea why Paul said, I suffer not a woman to teach. I'll answer that in just a second, Corkman. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. I want to read what Megan said, but I won't. You guys cannot see it. Enkidu 5. Hey, I'm giving you the option. Would you like me to read it in the other voice? I'll give you the option. Because he has a super chat there. So Numbers 5. Numbers 5, to give everybody a little bit of background, there is a did Isaiah think that all right, I'm sorry, I can't answer two questions at once. Sorry, I see it, Rob. I'll get it in a second. I'm really doing a great job ending this stream. I tell you what, Enkidu 5, I'm just going to read it in the other voice, and if you want to hear it a different way, I will. Oh, Enkidu 5 for $5. This has been totally debunked. I have nothing to say. You're just worth the monetary bump. Boom. There you go. Oh, Jill. God. How many times has Skylar asked you to come in and talk about slavery? Give me a break, man. All right. I tell you what you can do, Jill. You can take my video that I did on slavery and write a paper and send it to me, or you can put up a video where you address what I say point by point, and then I will address it. You say point by point, because that's the only way I see that being productive. So I challenge you to address my video. Just kidding. I don't challenge you, but you can if you want to. Okay. Right. Numbers 5. Okay. So, so in Numbers chapter 5, you have a wife who is thought by the husband to have committed adultery, but there's no evidence for it. And sorry if I get the details wrong. I'm just pulling this from memory. Sorry, I saw a comment. Now it threw me. I hate my brain, people. You haven't addressed my video, Jill. Give me a break, man. Quit trolling. So in Numbers 5, this woman is thought to have been caught in adultery and, or not caught, but is thought to have committed adultery, but the husband doesn't have any evidence. And so they bring her to the tabernacle. And in the tabernacle, she stands before the priest. There's a ritual that's performed. Part of that is taking some water and scraping dirt off of the floor of the tabernacle, put into the water. Some things are said. Hey, Rob, it was good to see you here, man. Take it easy. We'll talk soon. Excuse me. And she swears before, the Lord that she hasn't actually, done this thing. And then she drinks this water that's been mixed with the dirt from the floor of the tabernacle, and she goes home. And the idea here is it's similar to the river ordeal. It's not the same, but it's similar in that you don't have direct evidence that you can bring and present. So what you do is you have to rely on the deity to judge. And so if she hasn't done anything, nothing happens, because God is acting through that, incantation, that magical ritual that was done, and God is acting through that liquid. And if she has committed adultery, then, there's some interesting language there about the belly dropping, the thigh rotting, whatever. But and if not, nothing happens. So, but God uses that ritual, that liquid, to punish her. Okay. This comes up, is this a type of abortion? And it's not the clearest passage, right? It is debated. There's some good articles. If anybody wants them, I can get some to you. But definitely, I think, in my opinion, I did a little bit of work on this several months ago. I think that there definitely, if this was carried out, if the practice was actually carried out, you had aborted babies, aborted fetuses. I don't see any way around it, frankly. So yeah, but that's Numbers 5. We can do more detail on that, like in a video. By the way, I know Megan doesn't want to do it because she doesn't like getting all riled up. But there was this idea put out that she and Shannon Q would do a stream called Megan and Shannon Get Pissed, and they drink and then get angry at and do video responses to or video critiques, live video critiques. She's saying no. So but I just want to put that out there. I'm not saying that anybody should suggest that she do it. I'm just want to say that. Sorry, sweetheart. It would be adorable and amazing because I love strong, independent women. Even though Jill doesn't, he's missing out, I think. Oh, is Ailey's fake name's idea? I did not know that. It's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Anything with Shannon and Megan, I'd definitely tune in. Okay. Well, guys, this has been fun. And I don't see any more questions, so I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Just remember, and this is the bottom line, the only way that we move forward in scholarship, Skylar Fiction is who that is. Jonah Epstein. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, Megan, would you mind putting Skylar's a link to Skylar's channel and to maybe to Digital Fiction, because that's the channel that we do together. If you guys haven't subscribed to both of those channels, it'd be really awesome if you could. Trying to get Skylar up to 5,000. That would be fantastic. And if we could get Digital Fiction to 1,000, I know we haven't put any videos out recently on it. We're trying to be selective about what we put on there, but Skylar's also been incredibly busy. So have I, but nonetheless. But here's the deal. The only way to move scholarship forward is, I think, two things. One, by being very careful and thorough about the research that we do. So I see this a lot, in the slavery issue recently. Somebody writes something on something that seems to agree with what you think, and you run with it, right? And you're not really being terribly critical about the source or about what it is that they're saying, and you don't check it with other people in the field. You don't check it with people that can read these languages, or you just sort of take it uncritically and then you just roll with it, and that's very problematic. So use these resources, right? Use the Blue Letter Bible or whatever it is, and use interlinears and all this stuff. But the key to this is to do it with humility. Okay? Humility. A scholar without humility is either going to fail, or he has got to be so brilliant that he just gets everything right. The problem is that most of us don't fall into that category. I don't. I get stuff wrong all the time. Let me give you an example. I guess that wasn't an example. Something. So the guy that I was actually really excited when I found this out. This is going to sound weird when I tell you, but I was really excited about this. And then I think this would be a good story to finish on, because I think it sets my point. We did this stream, Skylar and I did this stream with this guy, and Skylar said, or the guy said that Deuteronomy 21, 10-14, the paring of the nails and the shaving of the head is not, it's about assimilation into Hebrew culture, right? And Skylar said, actually, I think that's a sign of mourning, the paring of the nails and the shaving of the head. And the guy said, do you have a citation for that? And Skylar said, Josh, do you have one? Because that's just what I've heard, which I thought was really awesome that Skylar said that. Well, I hadn't looked into that particular aspect of it. So I said, I don't know, but let me go over to my shelf. I've got Word Biblical Commentary, and I'll read what it says on there, or in there. And so I just flipped open to the verse, and it said, this is commonly interpreted as, or, generally understood as a sign of mourning. There you go. Now and I said, that doesn't mean that that's right, but here's a citation, right? Okay. Well, he put out a video response and said, here are 5, I think, citations. I talk about these in the video. It'll be good to check out when it comes out. But that had an opposing viewpoint, right? So, of course, after the stream, I'd already become aware of this. After the stream, I went and dug into it a little bit, because that's how I am. And actually, the passage is pretty debated, right? It's unclear what it means, and it's been unclear for a very long time. Here's the thing. Even though we weren't wrong, because we both said, I don't know, this could mean this, but here's a citation. Um, I'm very happy when I can come back and say, "Hey, I think that guy had a good point. He may be right about this." Right? I don't know that we can know because it's at least without doing an awful lot of research, and even so, it's still in the secondary literature. It's highly debated, and of course, the text doesn't get into a lot of details about why it is that they do it. But nonetheless, like I'm happy about saying, like, it's no skin off my back, I guess, to say, yeah, he could be right about that. You know why? Um, because I'm not competing. I'm not here to win. I get no benefit from winning, and you shouldn't either. Like, none of us should be coming to this and saying, "Rah rah, we're gonna beat the other person." I mean, there are times, obviously, that there are contexts that somebody's being a real jackass or something, and you want to see them get fine. But I mean, like in general, this is a scholarly pursuit. What we're doing here, the goal shouldn't be to win. The goal should be to get to the truth, to the to understand to come up with a good model to account for the data points. And if that means that I say, "Oh, I think it's X," and then somebody who doesn't have a PhD comes up and says, "Actually, I think it's Y," and I go, "That's a really great point. I've never thought of that." That should make me very happy. You know why? Because I'm a step closer. I'm a step closer to having a model that accounts for all the data points. We should all be there. We're not in it to win it. At least I don't think we should be. And it's one of the things. Yeah, I see one of the individuals' names in the side chat here. Brian mentions that was such a crazy stream. I heard part of it. Actually, I think I probably heard most of it, and it was just like, good God, man. I mean, like, it's clear you've never listened to anything that I've said, and it's clear you have no idea who I am. It's really interesting, by the way, as a side note. They spent several minutes in that stream talking about how I don't know how to read from the original languages, and why wasn't I reading from the Septuagint, the actual Greek of the Septuagint? Um, uh, and they're referring to this book that I held up called Ralph's edition of the Septuagint, which is a critical edition of the Septuagint. It's all in Greek. There is no English. I just thought that was kind of funny. They were like, "Look at that book. He's reading from English." I mean, I'm not like the greatest. I'm not a great Greek scholar or something. I can read Greek, but I'm certainly not a classicist or something. But it's just really funny. But the point is, while that warms the cockles of my heart a little bit, I have no animosity against that guy. I have a feeling that if I sat down and had a beer with him, I don't know, it'd be better because I think you get to know me a little bit. But no, I'm really rambling. Sorry, guys. Let's all try to stay humble. Let's all try to strive for academic integrity. Let's try to get to the bottom of these things. This is what good scholarship is about. And even though this has been a very rambling stream, and I've probably gone off on weird rabbit trails, and I'm sure that nobody will cite this stream as a succinct argument for something, I hope that I've gotten across some idea that how we're supposed to do good scholarship. Iron Charioteer, no. Did Moses write the Septuagint? No. No, I don't think Moses wrote the Pentateuch. So that's my answer. No. Okay. Oh, insects are cool. He became a patron. Or she, sorry. Thank you very much. Yes, and thank you to 5. Let's all reject poor scholarship. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We have 51 people still watching, even with all this goofy rambling that I'm doing. Apologize for that. I hadn't apologized in a good 35 seconds, so I needed to do that. But you guys have an amazing night, and I'm going to go get a little bit of sleep. It's been a rough week. And I will see you guys hopefully this weekend for our 6,000 subscriber stream. You guys are making it all happen. So, all right, guys. Until next time, resist poor scholarship. Always ask, how do you know that? Good night.